conversation today is to ensure that you understand the step-by-step process in acquiring a property within Abuja. All right, that is the point of this video, of this conversation today. So the first thing to do is to identify the right property. Identify the right property. So whether you're buying a house to live in, or you're buying for business, or you're buying a land, right? If you're buying a land, I think we should just focus on land right now. So let's let's use land for instance. So if you're buying a land in an estate, the first thing is to understand the right property. So what are you buying it for? All right. What are you buying it for? Is there a location, specific location that you're interested in? Is there a budget? Is there an amount you don't want to go above? And what is the purpose? Like, are you buying for investment sake? Are you buying, for residential, purpose? What exactly are you buying for? And I've realized that there are basically 3 reasons why people buy property. I mean, there could be more reasons, but there are basically 3 major reasons or benefits they get. The first is, of course, capital gain. You want to save your money. Like, you want to hedge your funds against inflation, against devaluation, etc. Second is cash flow. You want to invest in a project, a real estate project, and get money, from time to time. And then the third is for ownership. So you want to buy and live inside. Say you don't want to rent again. And I think that's a very good thing, especially for people that have kids, to live, to help them have memory. So ownership is a good thing. So each of these 3 reasons, other reasons that you want to buy property, the point is identify the reason, and also identify the property that suits that reason.
Exactly, that suits, and also your budget.
And your budget as well. Yeah, of course.
So after you're done identifying, the property that suits your purpose of buying, and figuring out your budget, how much you're willing to spend. The next thing is to carry out your verification. And what do I mean by that? It's simply conducting a due diligence to ensure that this property you're buying, the person selling to you, all of it is the right property. We have the right property. I want the property that
is right.
that is not the right property. Right? So, and this is where some people, or let me say a lot of people, get burnt a lot. Why? Because they tend to rush the process. So don't rush it. Now, the first thing you need to verify is the seller. Find out if the developer or the company selling to you, first of all, is legit.
Exactly.
Then secondly, also find out if they have the authority to sell that land to you, right? And then also check the title. That's the next one you're supposed to check. Verify the title. And for title documents, I think it's very, very easy. It's very easy for you to do that. It's not let me say, it's not a difficult thing for you to do. So I don't see why some people wouldn't do it. Like,
it's not difficult because you know it. I mean,
I'm just saying that you could, forfeit every other thing you're doing. Take out time to do it, because it is the most important thing. Your title, the title of the land you're buying, is very important. So you should take out the time to do it. Don't see it as a task that is very difficult to do, right? So you check your documents, verify that the document is properly registered, backed by the government, right? And then the next thing you should do is a physical inspection, or rather a site inspection.
Site inspection,
So go to sites. It's very important. And you can go to sites, maybe if you're on ground, you do that yourself, or you can send someone you trust that understands the entire how real estate works, and will give you an honest review. Or you could do a virtual inspection, right? Get your coordinates, do all the checks, ensure that everything you're seeing on ground matches what is right, what you've found in the brochure, what you've been presented. We just carry out your checks to ensure that everything, aligned before you proceed.
Very important. And again, if you're even rushed at this point, please pause and think again. No, don't pause. Remove your shoe and take off. Because, I mean, some people will tell you things like, oh, you don't have to do, me, I've done it. What do you mean by you've done it? Are you the one buying? Like a real estate agent, is it your money? A real estate agent or a realtor will not be telling you, no, ma, don't do any investigation, I've done it. They play, you know? So at this point, the third thing to do, once you have checked, you've done your due diligence, everything checks out, you know, the next thing is you request for an offer letter. Some people like to skip this point. They just feel, okay, everything checked out now, let me just pay, you know, but later, that's where the term hidden charges now comes in, right? There are a few other things you get to pay for, but you may not know you have to pay for them if you do not get an offer letter. So what is an offer letter? An offer letter is kind of like the name goes, it's an offer from the company telling you that, okay, they have seen your application for a plot or a unit or the number of plots, and they are willing to offer you this at this amount. So on the offer letter, you have the property details. What is the details? If it's a plot you're buying, the plot number, you should know, maybe the plot numbers may not be there. In some cases it's there, but at least the plot size, you know, the estate name, number of plots you're buying, the amount, you know, you're buying it for, you know, payment terms. Are you paying installments? Are you paying outrightly? What exactly? In some cases, they even go ahead to even tell you the exact date. If you're paying installments by installment, exact date you ought to be paying every month. The percentage of amount you're supposed to be paying. You know, like there are no surprises at this point because everything is there. The terms of the transaction, you know, your obligation, their obligation, what are they going to provide? What are you going to provide, etc. You know, usually is in the offer letter. Any other payments you ought to make usually is written in the offer letter. So your duty now is to go through meticulously. I like to tell my clients, we like to say to our clients that they should go through meticulously, you know, because you need to go through, see everything clearly before you go in. At that point, then you can now accept. So it's kind of like offer and acceptance. Exactly. So the acceptance now is either you reply the mail. So usually you're expected to like sign off on the offer at the end, offer letter at the end, and then reply the mail, right? Or send to us, you know, to handle from there. And then of course, you can now go ahead to the next phase. But the point about this particular phase, the offer letter phase, is a lot of people kind of skip it. A lot of people kind of tell you that it doesn't matter. But sincerely, I think it does, especially if you're buying in a city like Abuja. You know, Abuja is very strict and very regulated. For instance, you buy a property in an estate and you're confined to build a certain type of house on that property, on that land. You see, so, and it's usually stated in the offer letter. You know, and anything away from that, you stand the chance of even losing the land entirely. Do you get? So at the end of the day, don't say these things do not matter. They really do matter.
Right. So after you've signed your offer letter, accepted it, and sent it back to the company, then you can go ahead and make your payment. So if you're making an outright, you know, purchase, you go ahead and make the full payment at once. And upon making that payment, you receive what we call an acknowledgement of payment, a receipt that acknowledges or confirms that yes, we've received your payment, right?
Exactly.
And then you receive an allocation letter. Now, an allocation letter will just, you know, let you know the plots you've been given. You know, it's just an agreement between you and the developer that this person is interested in this particular plot or this number of plots, and we've agreed that the plot is yours, and the person has, you know, claimed that plot by making purchase, right? And if you're making an installment payment, maybe you decide to choose maybe the number of months that you're comfortable with. Then upon payment, you receive a receipt and also a provisional allocation letter.
Yes.
And for every payment you make afterwards, you also receive a receipt to that particular payment.
Yes.
And then after you've completed your payment for the period of time, you receive the full allocation. It is issued to you.
You know, and this is very interesting, and as simple as it sounds, please, I would like that we take notes, just pay rapt attention and follow it like this. So whether you're buying through us or you're buying from any other company or any other, person, these phases, as we are stating them, are very important, to save you a lot of headache and hidden charges.
Especially the offer letter part.
Yeah, especially offer
because that's
letter
where you see all the extra. We don't call it, they are not actually hidden charges.
I mean, people call it hidden
extra
charges.
That's what people call it, but it's the extra payment you make aside the payment you've made for your land.
Exactly.
So especially in a city like Abuja, you would have to pay those.
You have to pay those. And speaking of payments after paying for your land, and which leads us to the next phase of this flow. We're just going through a conversation on how to buy property within the city of Abuja, how to buy land in an estate land in Abuja. Now, after you've made the payments, you've either done the outright payments or installment payments. Now you're issued your allocation letter, etc. The next thing is, and this is where a lot of people get shocked. They get shocked when you now tell them that, oh, you have finished paying for your land, though, but there are like 2 major other payments
you have to make. And then they shout, how?
The first
it shows that it did not go through your offer letter.
Go through your offer letter. The first is your infrastructural levy. Now, infrastructural levy is the next bulk payment, and this infrastructural levy comprises of is a payment for the infrastructure that is in the estates. For instance, electricity, the roads, drainages, water, things like that, right? Things in the estate, the infrastructure within the estate that makes for convenient living, security, etc. These are the things that the infrastructure levy. In some estates too, that they have extra things like maybe a general swimming pool, a clubhouse, etc. Those little things put together are broken down into plots, and then everybody's allocated an amount he's supposed to pay per plot, for the infrastructure. And in some cases, because of how high the money can be, I think the least I've seen is 3 million. Okay, 2.5, between 2.5 3 million least.
That's the least
I've seen. For some estates, for the 150 square meter or 200, you're paying as much as 6 million, 5 million. But the beauty is that for most estates, they break it down, not most, some estates, they break it down for you. You can pay it over a period of time. So you can pay it within 6 months to 1 year in some cases. And so it's no more much of a pressure on you. But then again, the payments should be made. That's the first order payment after paying for your land and after physical paper allocation. The next is your development levy, right? The development levy usually is not as much as the infrastructure. That's why I started with the infrastructure, so that we'll get the big one out of the way first. The next one is the development levy. And I think the highest I've seen is $1 million for some 1,000 square meters. It's usually between say 200,000 to 1 million. Most cases it sits between 300 to 600,000. In most cases per plot. So depending on the number of plots you're buying, and this development levy consists of your setting out, the plot setting out, as well as excavation before you start building. All right, because usually we want to help people not to go away from their plot size, number one, to not go away from the designated area of land in your plot that you shouldn't go beyond when you're building a house. Make sense? So if you're having a 500 square meter, for instance, you probably should not build more than 300 square meter. You see? So, and if you build away from 300 square meter, the estate is trying to save you the headache of demolition. And so, in order to avoid all of that, we then decide that, okay, you know what, when you want to start building, we'll come and do your setting out, as well as your foundation excavation. And that's what comprise of that development levy. So these are the two major order payments. There's a third one, but that one doesn't apply to every estate. In some estates, they ask you to pay a fee, a token for your documents, your documentation. Some others also ask you to pay a token for your prototype, your building prototype. You know, sometimes it doesn't go beyond 100,000, you know, naira. So those are the 2.5 or 3 other kind of payments you make after, you know, paying for the land.
So if you're watching us right now and you've ever asked any real estate agent this question, why do I have to pay
this extra money?
Infrastructure and development levy? What is it for again? You've gotten
that's the
answer today, right? Yes. So the next on our list is your development. So if you bought from an estate that already has gotten all of their approvals, including building approval, then after you're done making payment for your infrastructure and development, you go ahead and start your building. Like you start constructing your dream house on that land almost immediately. But if you bought from an estate that is still processing their approvals, then you'd have to wait until they've gotten their approvals and then they've done their physical allocation, you know, shown you your plot on ground, that this is where your plot is. After then, you can start your construction. And for some developers, they like to use that, like they just like to make a ceremony out of it, actually, which is really interesting nice. And beautiful, right? So for everyone who has bought, we do the ceremony, call you, you come out and, you know, get to know and see your plot on ground. So you can start, you know, building almost immediately, right? Now, so for a place like Abuja, most times people ask questions. They're like, oh, can I buy land for maybe and keep it for 5 years, 10 years and all of that? So the hard truth is this: for Abuja, you can no longer do that, like do banking for 10 years. It's no longer really possible, especially the city, right? You can give it a shot on the outskirts, but not in town. So usually in town, the approved standard is for you to, you know, buy right? And then you commence construction almost immediately. Absolutely. At least at that time, when you've gotten your allocation and all of your approvals, you have at least 2 to 3 years to complete, let's say 60 to 70% of your building, right? Before, you know, you proceed. And this is very important, right? And with all of the other things that we've talked about and all the processes that are involved with you acquiring land in Abuja. Some of them might seem very little or might look like they're not important, right? But they are very important. Very important.
So yeah, there it is. We basically just simplify the process of acquiring a property, a land usually in an estate in Abuja, you know, and would like that you take your time and rewatch this. If you have any questions, you can always ask us as well so that we can guide you further. But if you're looking to carry all this process now and hang it on the shoulders of a professional, then you want to call or WhatsApp the numbers showing in the description of this video. We're going to help you, walk you through all the way. If you have any confusion at all, you can as well reach out to us. And by the way, we have some amazing offers for you right here in the city of Abuja. We have 2 main offers for you if you're starting out. You've not bought in Abuja before. We have a property at Apo Wasa starting at 7 million naira. And of course, this process definitely is there, but of course, make it very easy for you. We also have another starting at 5.8 million at the moment, and this price from now. So you want to take advantage of any of these, you can as well go ahead and call us. But majorly, if you have any questions or concerns around investing in the city of Abuja, you know who to reach out to right now.
Right. So till we come your way again, remember we talked about the step-by-step process of how you can acquire land in the city of Abuja.
Exactly.
So see you soon.
On the next
Have a great day.
Have a great day.